So let's move over to the football game where we saw Alabama lose to Tennessee for the second time in 3 seasons and the second straight time in Knoxville. The story of this game is kind of twofold. It was Alabama's inability to take advantage of turnovers caused by the defense and the inability of Jalen Milroe to be confident in himself and just complete the open pass, right? The issue in this game, the issue this season has largely been our defense, right? When we talk about the issues with Alabama football, it has been our defense. We talked about the Vandy game, we talked about the South Carolina game, and about how the defense was not able to get off the field on third down, was not able to get off the field on fourth down, and it was really causing massive issues. And Alabama was just looking very, very bad. It was like no matter what the offense did, the defense was causing problems. Yet in this game, the defense wasn't your issue. The defense caused 3 turnovers. They forced a fumble and picked Nico off twice and really had him uncomfortable for large stretches of this game. The offense, however, could not convert. The offense went 3 of 14 on third down. Jalen Milroe goes 25 of 45 through the air, 5.3 yards per pass, has 2 interceptions, and just never looked comfortable. There was one drive the whole game that really felt confident and comfortable, and it was the next to last drive. It was the drive where Alabama ends up scoring at the end of the, believe it was at the end of the third quarter. That was really the only drive that Alabama had that I truly felt like Alabama was fully clicking on all cylinders and was fully confident. Alabama gets down 14-10 for the first time in the game, and then Alabama puts together a drive with a run and a pass, and we pass to Kendrick Law, and then we do a longer pass to Jeremy Bernard, and we actually, put together a semblance of offense. Justice Haynes runs it in untouched for a touchdown. And it looked like they might have found something on offense. And then immediately following that, Tennessee has a 9-play drive that leads to a punt. Alabama goes 3 and out with a punt. Tennessee scores, so Alabama's now down 3 and out in a punt. 4 and down on downs. Tennessee kicks a field goal, and then Jalen throws a pick on the first play to end the game. Right? So Alabama gets a drive to make it look like they know what they're doing. They get a drive to actually have some turnaround, to potentially be, oh, wow, Alabama may have put it together finally on offense. The blocking looked better. Alabama was running the ball better. They had more time for Milroe. The throw to Jeremy Bernard was perfect. It was like, oh, maybe Alabama knows what they're doing. Nope. 3 and out, 4 and out, interception. Tennessee made Milroe's life a living hell in this game. It was not an individual effort that we saw from South Carolina where you just had a single person that was just a wrecking crew. Tennessee just continued to bring pressure, and their defensive line continued to get to Jalen Milroe. And because that defensive line continued to get to Jalen Milroe, he was never confident. And it leads me to beg the question, are we sure Milroe is the guy? And the reason I ask this question is I partially am a Milroe believer in that if you give him time, he typically is better. Right? We saw it in the South Florida game. We saw it in the Wisconsin game, right? South Florida game, he didn't look that good. You finally start giving him some time, he looks a lot better. In the Wisconsin game, pressure was never an issue. He looked really good. In the Georgia game, he did a really good job. Even when Georgia brought pressure, he was replacing the blitzer with the ball. He was looking fine. The problem in this game is he never set his feet. He never was confident in his pocket. He never was confident in his receivers. The only person he was targeting was Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams had almost 20 targets in this game. Of 45 attempts, 20 of them went to Ryan Williams. When we talked about the ability of Alabama's offense after that Georgia game, the thing we talked about was he had thrown it to 10 receivers, right? Ryan Williams obviously was the guy who made the important catches, right? He made 2 of the biggest catches, but he was not the only guy making catches. The problem was Milroe started only throwing to Ryan Williams. And Tennessee knew it. They were putting their best corner on Ryan. The pick in the end zone was Milroe staring down Ryan Williams. You know, you're throwing a jump ball to a 6'1" receiver against one of the best corners, play in vision. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, right? The clear statement of this is you have to throw it to somebody else, right? At the end of the day, DeBoer and Nick Sheridan both talked about this in some of the other games, about how you had to throw it to other people because if you only threw it to Ryan Williams, the defense was going to key in on him, right? They said that after the Georgia game about how it was a real effort to make sure that you got other people involved in the passing game because if you only throw it to Ryan, they're going to key in on Ryan. And then in this Tennessee game, you did exactly what you said you couldn't do. You just keyed in on Ryan and only threw the ball to Ryan, and it was easy defense, right? When I know where the ball is going, I can scheme to avoid him, right? The other problem is Jalen Milroe was missing wide open passes. The play that possibly could get you a touchdown or at least get you massive yards at the end of the game, Jalen gets a clean pocket. Ryan Williams has nobody within 10, 15 yards of him outside of the safety that was not close, and Ryan only has the safety to beat for a touchdown, and Jalen overthrows him by 5 yards. He just was he didn't set his feet. He was throwing as if somebody was blitzing him, and he had to get it out quick, and there was nobody nearby, right? There was nobody nearby. Jalen just overthrows a wide open Ryan Williams, and then that's it, right? Ryan Williams, if he can't catch the ball, there's nothing we can do, right? So you were targeting him too much, honestly, in times where it was super tight coverage, yet when he was wide open, you couldn't get it to him because you were just overthrowing the ball. Then the other thing is Alabama may be the most undisciplined Alabama team that I have ever seen. Now, part of this is Alabama has struggled with penalties in Knoxville, right? The last 2 games, they have combined for 32 penalties in Knoxville. So there's something to be said about that, right? I don't know if it's the environment. I don't know if it's the refs getting a little trigger happy. I don't know what it is, right? And I'm not going to say these refs were perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know there was a holding call that they missed on Ryan Williams. There was an offsides that was super obvious that would have given Alabama a first down that they missed, right? There were multiple things in this game that were missed. There were also a bunch of things that they called that were absolutely legitimate and that were no-brainers. Like one of them, the Kendrick Law personal foul that basically ends the game on 4th and 22. Kendrick Law, well, first off, Jalen throws the ball behind Kendrick. If he hits him in stride how he should have, Kendrick can actually catch the ball and run with it. But instead, he throws it behind Kendrick Law. Kendrick Law, bobbles it. Defender blows him up. He drops the ball. Then they get drawn with each other. Kendrick shoves him. The guy actually kind of throws a punch back. And instead of offsetting penalties, you get 1 penalty on Kendrick Law. Absolutely was a penalty on Law. I probably should have been offsetting, right? Similar to the penalty that we got called for illegal substitution, where somebody came off the field and then tried to come back on the field. Should have never been illegal substitution. DeBoer, the officials even were talking about how DeBoer should have had a right to substitute, and the officials did not give him time. That doesn't matter, right? The undisciplinedness of Alabama is very, very, very obvious, right? Alabama is now the 5th most penalized team in the entire country. They are averaging almost 9 penalties a game. They had over 150 penalty yards in this game, right? Alabama cannot do anything good without a penalty pulling it back, right? There were a few moments where Alabama thankfully had the penalties go in their favor. But again, they were just not able to capitalize, right? Penalty helps you get off the field on fourth down, get good field position. Your offense doesn't do anything, right? This is a situation where Alabama has got to figure out what they do best. They had some success running the ball, and they got away from running the ball. They had moderate success throwing it, and then Jalen just completely looks lost. The defense was looking terrible earlier in the season. Now they look okay. Alabama just does not have an identity currently. They don't. They don't have an identity. Their only identity is being undisciplined and super temperamental, right? They look great in the first half against Georgia, which now looks insane after the Georgia-Texas game. Then they look terrible in the second half, right? Obviously, we've talked about how Georgia had a completely different game plan. They were going for it on fourth down. It was a way different circumstance. But still, nevertheless, it happened, right? My thoughts is Alabama needs to figure out what they do best and just do that, right? Start with the basics. Because currently, if you want any shot of trying to make a playoff, and as I'm recording this, the AP poll just came out. Alabama's ranked 15th, right? Obviously, the AP poll is not the college football playoff poll, but this gives you an idea. Alabama's 15th. If you're going to be an at-large team in the college football playoff, you're going to need somewhere in the 7 to 9 range, right? So Alabama's got some work to do. They still have a game upcoming against Missouri. They still have a game upcoming against LSU. They still have games upcoming against Oklahoma and Auburn. They still have some games. They will have to win out. No questions asked. You're going to have to win out if you're going to try to make it. The other thing is, if you even want to think about winning out, you've got to actually figure out what you do best and get back to doing that, right? Because at the end of the day, it really felt like Alabama was just grasping at straws. You started the game and you have 8 runs in a row. Cool, you're establishing the run. But then you run it on third down and have to punt, right? It's the play calling in this game for me on offense was very bad. It's you were getting success doing one thing, and so you just kept doing it, and then Tennessee just keys in on what you're doing, and they stop you, right? Tennessee has a great defense. Not going to take that away from them. But the offense has to be better. I believed in Kalen DeBoer coming into this. I believed in Nick Sheridan mostly because of Kalen DeBoer. But the offensive play calling has got to be better, right? If you're going to have success, you need to have consistent success. And consistent success is going to be making the play calls that will help you win the games. And I just didn't think I saw that. So I don't know what Alabama needs to do. I don't know if it's a change at quarterback. I don't know if it's a change across the offensive line. I don't know if it's keeping a tight end in to block to give Jalen Milroe extra time. I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what it's going to take for Alabama to get back to playing the brand of football that we saw earlier this season. But if Alabama doesn't, this is going to be an 8-4 Alabama team. This is going to be a team that, has no chance of achieving any of their goals, has no chance of, thinking about a college football playoff, and might as well just pack it up and get ready for next season, right? They will fall and continue to fall if they do not figure out what's going on. And I don't know exactly what all this means. Obviously, I know Kalen DeBoer is trying to figure it out, but something has got to change. And I think that in the offseason, that's going to come from a coordinator perspective. I really don't know if the coordinators are the answer, but at a bare minimum, something must change for this team because as it's going right now, they are too undisciplined and too poorly coached and poorly game planned, and opponents are just taking full advantage. Tennessee took advantage, South Carolina took advantage, Vanderbilt took advantage, Georgia made adjustments and took advantage in the second half. DeBoer has just been getting out-coached. Now, Milroe cost him this Tennessee game, right? I don't think that this was a full just out-coaching, But in most cases, I do not think that DeBoer has lived up to the expectation that some of us had set because of the success he had with inferior teams at Washington. The comments were, look what he did with inferior competition at Washington, like against Georgia and against Texas. What's he going to do with better players at Alabama? The answer is worse, right? It's very odd. Obviously, these aren't his players. This isn't, the people he would have gotten for his scheme. But still, these are elite players, right? Alabama has the best talent composite of anybody in the country. And they've just underperformed. So they're gonna have to figure it out, and you're gonna have to figure it out fast because you have Missouri coming to town this week before an off week and going to Death Valley and Baton Rouge. So we will see what happens. But that's all I really have to say about Alabama football. Things have to change, and I'm not exactly sure what all that entails. But things have to change. They have to change in a hurry because this is really bad, and it could get even worse. So that's all I have to say. If you did enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.